Hello, everybody. Welcome back for another movie spoiler review. This one has been a long time coming. I can't believe it took me this long to finally get around to it. But if you've been following me along since I started the channel in like late 2019, uh, well, I think technically I started doing reviews in around 2020 on my YouTube channel. By the way, please follow me on my YouTube channel, youtube.com/talkativecarl. There are links in the description below, like my Twitch channel, twitch.tv/talkativecarl, where I stream video games live almost every day. My Instagram, my Patreon, patreon.com/talkativecarl, where if you want to financially support the channel, you can go there. There's three affordable tier listings where you can put in certain requests for certain reviews or topics in general you want to discuss. And I am 30 subscribers away from hitting that 400 subscriber milestone, and once we hit it, I will be doing a Hot Ones challenge video where I will actually buy the hot sauces from the show and answer all your questions, if not Twitter, like YouTube or Instagram, and I will answer them live as I try out each of the hot sauces in celebration. So definitely like try to get these like likes to let's try to get to 100 likes, and definitely thank you all for who've been like supporting me since I started my Twitch and YouTube channel. Your support has been like immensely appreciated. But anyway, I say all that to say that one of my earliest movie reviews is the 2000s Charlie's Angels film, starring Drew Barrymore, Lucy Liu, and Cameron Diaz. And that was one of my biggest viewed movie reviews that I've done. That thank you once again for all those. Like, I knew there's people out there who love that freaking movie as much as I did, and God, I just love. I was gushing over. Like, I love all three of these ladies, but I gush over Drew Barrymore. I love her. She is like amazing. Oh my God, she is so attractive. Oh my God, it's like that one. I already mentioned in many videos, like my movie review on Batman Returns. Check that out, by the way. Where like Michelle Pfeiffer Catwoman was like my as a little kid, my sexual awakening, when it's like when when it clicked that like how I was so a little kid that it's like I didn't think about girls beforehand like that. Like, I was still a little kid, but as soon as I saw that, that's when it like all hit home from like a rush. Like, oh, okay, I'm liking this. And ever since then, I was like, I think like the bad girl types, and like first a Bach in The Craft, the bad girl from The Craft, thing for her. But I think Drew Barrymore is like one of those like nice girls that like I probably should be with instead of like those and those dangerous bad girls that I got a thing for. But I love Drew Barrymore. She is, oh my God, she is everything. She is so hot and so sweet and funny. I always love a funny girl. And anyway, now I'm finally, because I promised for the longest time that I will eventually get around to Charlie's Angels Full Throttle, and now I'm here. And it I don't I far from hate this movie. Like, I still enjoyed this film. The first one is still a little bit better, but I still have a great time with Full Throttle, because I if you in any way love those ridiculousness out of those Fast and Furious films, you should love Full Throttle. Like that's the only way I can probably apply what I care about this movie. But people's tastes are different. I mean, like I lost interest after Fast Five, where it got too freaking ridiculous at this certain point, and I just can't get with it. I like most people who gushing over like, oh yeah, let's send them to space and team them up with like the Transformers and dinosaurs. And it's like, why? It's so ridiculous. It's like it's ridiculous, and then it's like you just like whatever with it, and you just there's I know people's talking about how like empty calorie kind of movies and sometimes turn your brain off kind of thing, but sometimes you're asking too much of your audience if you keep asking them to turn your brain off on everything just because it's just dumb fun. There's dumb fun and there's nonsense, and after Fast and Furious 5, it's gone just nonsense. It's not fun nonsense to me. Full Throttle, to some people you might say is equally as like ridiculous, but it's ridiculous. They might as well get to the cups of the ridiculousness before it just like becomes like, okay, this is kind of grating. And I respect the fact that they stopped after 2, because I feel if they would have pressed on, then they would have been like reaching that same Fast and Furious territory where it's gone like, okay, you've gone too far. Now, I haven't watched, like, I won't say I haven't, I'm pretty sure, I just can't remember when I was a little kid. I might have maybe watching with my grandparents, might have seen it's kind of like the $6 Million Man. I know I've seen certain snippets of it, but I never really stuck to watching it constantly, tune in constantly. I know I've seen it here and there, but these 2 movies, the early 2000s Charlie's Angels films, are my definitive Charlie's Angels. And I know they made like a reboot of it, what was it, like at least a handful of years ago by this point. And from what I remember, because I from the trailers I've seen, and later on from like Cinema Sins and other people reviews and clips that I've seen, I'm glad I did not waste money to go see it, because like what the difference that I've seen is just also just like with like the the Ocean's 11, or at least Ocean's 8 film. It's supposed to be like a female version of what we got from like the Ocean's 11 films, and like from Ocean's 8 and that recent Charlie's Angels film a few years back, the notable difference in my opinion is that it seems like they was trying to force, oh by the way, happy International Women's Month, by the way. But I bring it up because I think it was studios trying to force women's empowerment, like female lead, and it's manufactured BS to appeal to women, and it gives off try hard kind of vibes, where with these early 2000s Charlie's Angels films, the appeal that I get from these films is the fact that these ladies, like this is the cast members aside from Bill Murray. You already know, Bill Murray was kind of like a jerk to Lucy Liu, and obviously they quickly replaced him with Bernie Mac. I have some few opinions about Bernie Mac's performance in here, but beyond that, at least with like the main 3 characters, they were having a good time. The chemistry between these 3 were noticeable, that they are having a good time, they're fun, they're friends. If you don't have that with your actors, then sometimes it shows in the performance. Sometimes, I don't want to say all the time. But with the rebooted stuff, seems like, I don't know, from what I've seen from like trailers and clips and all this other stuff, they wasn't having like a I wouldn't say they might liked each other, but it seems like, I don't know, it seems forced. Yeah, like, like the Ocean's 8 and the Charlie's Angels reboot, they all seem like they were like the movie was forced to be made. These actors, because they're like high profile names of the time, they was forced to be together. As far as they obviously, their agents were called up and like, hey, you want to be in this thing and blah blah blah. It's just like sometimes movies are, come across as like forced and manufactured, and you can tell. And Charlie's Angels and Full Throttle seems like, okay, it was definitely like a patch project. Because this movie was directed by MCG. That's his name professionally, but his real name is Joseph McGinty Nicole. But one second, let's find like the previous film. Yeah, it was also, the first one and the second one was made by the same director. And of course he made We Are Marshall, Terminator Salvation, This Means War, 3 Days to Kill, The Babysitter, Remnant of the World, The Babysitter, Killer Queen. It was the latest thing he did. So he I mean, honestly, it's like, it all depends on how you view it, maybe. But I don't know, like the Spotty, it's like, some people like might like This Means War. I think Terminator Salvation was, was like an okay film, and of course I love the early 2000s Charlie's Angels films. And but like I never saw We Are Marshall. Some people liked it fine, but 3 Days to Kill, I don't know, it's just like, he directed some movies, maybe like a few of them I actually liked, but it's just that I don't know. Wait, 1 second here. uh Taking care of some stuff. You forget certain things and you come up with an inopportune time. But anyway, but let's get back to film at hand. Now, like I said, the reprising their roles: Cameron Diaz as Natalie Cook, Drew Barrymore as Dylan Sanders, Lucy Liu as Alex Monday. But you also got Demi Moore as Madison Lee, a former Angel, You got Bernie Mac as Jimmy Bosley, adopted brother of John Bosley. Of course, they replace uh, Bill Murray with Bernie Mac because the issues that they had with Bill Murray. But Bernie Mac, I want to touch on it while I got it. Like, God rest his soul, the great Bernie Mac. But I don't think he was right for this part. I think they need like like almost equally funny guy to play the role for Bosley. He was like the it guy at the time, and like he was the come up in like comedians, celebrities, and everything like that. And of course, he's done like some pretty good work with like the Ocean's 11 movie. Because I don't think Ocean's 12 came out yet, or was about to come out at the same time. So he was a hot commodity. So like, of course, it would maybe logically, yeah, it wouldn't make sense. However, it's just that I don't know. It's just like it's like Bernie Mac was doing a stereotypical Bernie Mac, if that makes sense. Like, wow, it's like this attitude, and then like the I don't know, if you see it for yourself, you know what I'm talking about. It just comes across as like a stereotypical Bernie Mac impression. It's not really funny, and it's like you're not allowing Bernie Mac to be funny. I don't know, you didn't give him enough material to work with. At the very least, what they could have done is let him just play it cool, because Bernie Mac is cool, and just allow him just to be like just chill, but it seems like they need him just to do something funny, just do something. And it's like it just did not work for me. That kind of stood out, and I don't know. I watched this a decent amount of times as a kid, and I don't even remember. I could have chuckled a couple of times, but it's like because it was the first time me watching it, maybe. But it's like kind of grating, and it could have gone with somebody. I don't know who other person was hot, like a comedian that was so hot at the time in the early 2000s or 2003, but they could have gone to somebody else who just a little bit more chill and not so, like way up here. We got Justin Theroux as Seamus O'Grady, Dylan's ex-boyfriend. Crispin Gulliver returns as the Thin Man. Rodrigo Santoro as the assassin Randy Emmers. Got Robert Patrick as Ray Carter, director of U.S. Marshal Service. Matt LeBlanc reprises his role as Alex's boyfriend, Jason Gibbons. John Forsythe reprises his role as the voice of Charlie. John Cleese as Mr. Monday, Alex's father, and Luke Wilson as reprising his role as Pete, Natalie's boyfriend. Now, of course, it just like it was almost like GoldenEye, or at least most of the James Pierce Brosnan James Bond films, where you open up in like they're kind of like in like a situation or overseas and what have you, and is I don't know if it's Cambodia or some Mongolia. It was, Mongolia, military area hideout where they're rescuing this U.S. Marshal played by Robert Patrick, and I always think of him as the T-1000. I'm sorry, like that was the first time I saw Robert Patrick in anything as the T-1000. As honestly, in my opinion, outside of like superhero villains or super villains in comic books, the T-1000 is one of the best movie villains ever. Easily in the top 10 at the very least, because you talking like a threat, like this dude is like right up there with like, you know, Freddy Krueger, Michael Myers, Jason Voorhees, and Ghostface. It's like, you know, movie villains is like a serious threat. It's like a non-stop threat. He played that perfectly. Yeah, honestly, if you want to get killed by some kind of movie monster, I'd rather it be like uh uh the T-1000 if I had a choice, because he would just do it, be done with it, move on, not toy with you like most other movie monsters. To be frank with you, it's like, you know, stab you, done, move on. None of that, you know. Hey, Alex, want to play a game? What's your favorite scary movie? Hi, Sydney. I missed you. Just effing with the character for like 15 minutes before you finally go after them. Uh, but they go to this hideout to rescue Robert Patrick. And of course, the CGI and the wire work, yeah, you looking back on it, it's freaking ridiculous. And definitely early 2000s kind of not CGI, but like, you know, blue screen stuff. Like, you know, oh, you got Dylan, you know, doing like the Matrix back, you know, thing and sliding under the table with no, you know, kind of running start or whatever. It's just like she's just doing it, and it's like it's one of those things. It's like it's dumb fun kind of situation. I guess you use no other way to kind of put it. And they all like, you know, running out of there, and like, trying to avoid like, rocket fires from both ends of the road as they're trying to drive off. They drive off the road, you know, I guess it's next to some kind of dam. That's why it gives me vibes like GoldenEye, because it kind of looks like that kind of scene. And they happen to be, you know, hauling a helicopter in the back, and as they falling off, they all like just kind of dive into the thing, turn it on, because the keys are just in there just by happenstance, and they fly off, you know, saving the day. When they head back to Charlie in their headquarters, it turns out that because there's a surprising Bruce Willis cameo. I forgot he had like a cameo that's playing some kind of DOJ official. And side note, like my heart goes out to Bruce Willis and his family going through this, you know, difficult time, film suffering dementia. He is a fantastic actor. He's Bruce effing Willis. He is always be one of the greatest actors of all time. And yeah, it's a sad day, you know, because he has an impressive body of work, and like he always seemed like such like a great dude. So, you know, my heart goes out to him and his family. He plays this DOJ who gets attacked and killed by this mysterious assassin, and one of his rings are stolen. And also the other ring that Robert Patrick had, uh both of them are mechanisms that, when pulled together, they reveal a code that gives you like a list of names that people who are in witness protection, and they're the angels are charged to trying to find these rings to avoid these people from being found out and assassinated. So uh uh the girls do what the girls the next thing they do. uh uh so one of the people that was like on that was found out was this guy named Alan Caulfield, and he was dead in his house. So they, under the guise of like CSI people, and of course they play the whole CSI Miami type of theme song. Of course, I didn't catch on to CSI TV shows until like maybe 2-3 years after this film. I wasn't even fully aware that was like a reference back then, until like once I rewatched it recently. Then when they play that song, I was like, oh my god, they playing the CSI Miami. Oh, yeah, that would make sense, because CSI, all the CSI TV shows like New York, Miami, Vegas, was it started with Vegas, but they sprang from like they took it to, it's kind of like the Real Housewives. There's always like one in every freaking state. So they got like CSI New York and Miami, and of course they played the no, it wasn't Miami. It was the original, like the Vegas one. And I really want to go back to Vegas. That was an amazing time. See some friends again. I really want to revisit that place. Anyway, and get some water here. Mouth kind of dry. I spent some time at the gym earlier this morning, so like I'm feeling pretty good and refreshed after been going to work for back to back since Sunday up until Wednesday. I really needed this. So anyway, the so they found this evidence of this like pineapple wax, where somehow they figure out is used for a surfboard. So like a mysterious assassin is a surfer, and they do some BS handling. They figured out like he had some kind of torn thing on his leg that healed over a year, possibly because the way the foot indentation is pressed a little harder, or than the other footprint, blah blah blah. So they go to the nearest beach, which, how he lives in LA at all? He could easily be like an out of town type of assassin, like some John Wick stuff. You don't know. But they deduce that he might be at the closest beach there, and they do a stakeout, and they end up bumping into a former angel, which clearly, I mean, like, it's kind of like Scooby-Doo level. There's not much mystery unless it's your first time watching it. But if you are like a movie buff and you've seen your fair share of like spy thrillers or spy comedy or whatever like that, some high profile person showing up. I mean, ironically, if you watch my review of the previous film, where like Cameron Diaz's character Natalie make a joke about, you know, the main guy who turns out to be the bad guy, his assistant, and it's like, oh, she gotta be the one that did it. And it turns out that she had to be right in a way, just not the main person, but the right hand woman of the main person. But in this one, it's kind of clearly obvious, like, okay, like she clearly gonna have to be the bad guy, because you don't get like somebody like Demi Moore and she has some kind of bit part. You say, and yeah, I know I say that after we see somebody like Robert Patrick and Bruce Willis. Yeah, I get it, but it's just, I don't know. It's kind of clearly obvious he's the bad guy. And even they make the reference that, you know, once they finally spot the surfer and Dylan get all hot in the nether regions because, like, he's an attractive guy, and they just like, oh yeah, he's definitely the bad guy, because like, Dylan always falls for the bad guy. So they say hi to Madison Lee, former Angel, and they start listing off her, kind of like, baseball stats, and stuff like what she did, and because like the mantle of Batman, or the James Bond, the Charlie's Angels get, it always comes in threes, and eventually they recycle once they get a little older and it can't do the job as much or as well, or whatever the case might be, or if something tragic happens, and whatever the case might be, they get recycled into the next generation of Angels. Matter of fact, which I thought was a nice touch, because I watched this twice this week, just to make sure that I'm absorbing it right, because mostly because I miss seeing these films. There's a scene where Dylan infiltrates sneaks into the Charlie's Angels hideout, and there's the lobby in the back, to the open doors, and there this circular room where it got all these pictures of these ladies, which you don't get a good look, that close of a look, because it's kind of like, out of focus, but it's clearly supposed to represent like past Angels throughout the years that work for Charlie, which who knows how old Charlie is, or is Charlie the same person, or is also another mantle that looks after their set of Angels through their career. And I thought it was a nice touch. It's kind of like a memento, or at least a nice some for the boomers who probably grew up with like the 70s Charlie's Angels, because they ran through like the early 70s into the early like to like 81 is the latest. Speaking of which, you get a nice cameo for one of the original Angels from the 70s show, Jacqueline Smith, returning as Kelly Grant for a little cameo to help out Dylan when she's having like a kind of like a crisis and everything like that. It's a nice little moment. And you can easily say that Demi Moore's Madison Lee character, who was a former Angel, could be an Angel from like the next generation after Kelly, from like the 80s leading into like maybe the latest mid 90s, before she went on and her group went on, and then eventually Charlie found Dylan and the others who kind of took over, which it'd be kind of fun to see like I say that, but because I'm about to say it's fun to see like Charlie's Angels, where like you see Charlie actually recruiting the Angels. They're not established yet, or you see them trying to function as a team, because by and large, even from the show, from what I can remember, I could be wrong, but it's just like the team's already established, they already are a well-oiled machine. So you don't see those like trial and error with trying to figure each other out and trust each other and all the other stuff. They're just already in the thick of it. Now, normally I will be opposed to that, just like with whole Batman stuff, because we always see like the parents getting killed, but we've never seen until Nolan did it where you actually see him go overseas and train and learn how to be Batman. We rarely see that because we always just like he's always an established Batman. It's the same thing with like Matt Reeves' Batman, where it's like not necessarily the same thing because we don't see him how he trained and everything like that, but we see him in his second year where he's not, you know, perfect yet, where he stumbles and like, you know, like he's still figuring things out in his early career as Batman. So it's like it would be cool to see like an early, like the first year or second year of Charlie's Angels group still figuring each other out and try to make sure they're like a well-oiled machine. That'd be great, but you gotta do it if you actually have like a actual something, a story to tell, and not just because you just want to do it because it's like a cool IP that will you just assume people are gonna be in seats. But you actually gotta you know, if it was me, if I would have made that rebooted Charlie's Angels film, what I would have done, you know, do like a, you know, if I would be part of the whole casting thing, I would chose some original actors, some no-name actresses, and not just, you know, oh, let's get. I'm pretty sure it was the girl from Twilight was one of the members. I could be wrong. I'm pretty sure she was one of them. But don't just get it because like, oh, we got this big name people, we gotta get button seats, so we gotta get on. It's like it doesn't always guarantee that. It's just like with the whole Chris Pratt thing with Mario. Instead of just counting on your IP to guarantee button seats, you trying to, you know, force the needle by, oh, we got this named actor because you've seen him and stuff, so we want to make sure it's a guaranteed thing. I would have, you know, get maybe if I want to get named actors, I want to get one for Bosley and get one for Charlie. That is it, because the main focus is the girls, and I want to get some either no name or, you know, early in their career kind of actresses. Maybe like, I would say Jenna Ortega, but she's already on a roll, just like with Haley Bailey. I would have said her too, but they're already on like kind of a roll right now, so they already big names. So before Wednesday and before The Little Mermaid, I would have went with them, but you know, now they kind of blown up, and it's like, you know, they won't be as like original anymore. But we're going some like younger if you want to make this like a trilogy, you can go with 3 young actresses, you know, there's a little green but you know hungry, and blow them up. Make sure there's some chemistry, have some fun on the set, because this is going to be like a fun movie. Just the 70s, I remember the 70s show being just like a fun, you know, spy, you know, thing. But what I would have taken out, which I have a problem with this movie, the one thing that kind of is glaring to me is like the shoddy wire work and the green screen stuff. You know, not that, you know, movies don't require that, but it shouldn't be so glaringly obvious, where I would have done something akin to maybe GoldenEye, like something like GoldenEye or Casino Royale, in terms of like, you know, I would say realism, but you know, get some you know, some cool action, or at least the John Wick film kind of things, like get some whoever like was in charge of those things, you know, as far as the action is concerned, get them on board on this, so the action can be up to snuff and get some cool comedy writers to make sure the writing is on par with, so far as like making these girls, the charm should come from the actresses, but also it's like the writing, you know, not only good but it's funny and makes the people likable. Like, give these girls some layers, because there's layers to Lucy Liu character and Natalie and Dylan, and just makes them fun. You see like their opening when, you know, you see Dylan, you know, just because she's such a rebel and she's like, you know, like in this kind of like wrestling paint and everything, like this is so freaking fun. And of course, Lucy Liu is a little proper. She's, you know, sucking some little kid out and beating him at chest, and she's like, you know, come from a previous living, and she's like, you know, like done like polo and stuff like that, and like, you know, Natalie is dorky, but she's fun, and she always puts herself out there, doesn't care what people think, you know. She's like having fun. She like dancing and just like she just doesn't care. You know, it's like you respect people like that do their own thing despite, you know, like don't worry about what everybody else think. You just be you, and that's what makes like Natalie charming. If you really focus, because that's the thing, people are going to be focused on like the kind of stupidity of the wire work and the green screen, but the actresses, like, they are layered, they're fun, and they work well with each other, and that's what I find appealing with these two Charlie's Angels films. Speaking of which, the MC Hammer scene, this always stuck with me after all these years. I don't remember anything from these Charlie's Angels film, is that MC Hammer dance scene, and I always loved that. It was so much fun. It got me the biggest laugh every time I see it, and it always put a smile on my face, where, you know, Natalie and Pete is moving in together, and like they're like, you know, she's listening to MC Hammer rap video, and she just dancing the MC Hammer dance, and like Cameron Diaz is a great dancer. It was like, I gotta say, but you seen, like, you look up Charlie's Angels MC Hammer dance and watch these, you know, girls just like have a ball, where like Dylan and Alex is come in as they put some stuff in the house, and you see her dancing, and they just like drop everything and do like it's like I love that scene. Is freaking amazing. Oh my god, this makes me like, you know, like these girls even more. You probably didn't get nothing like that in like the rebooted version, because it's, like I said, it's felt forced. It doesn't feel like people wanted to be there or make this movie or had any passion for this movie. But anyway, so where did I leave off? Oh yeah, so they track down the surfer guy to this like motor bike racing thing, and you get a little surprise. I forgot he was in this, like supporting role with Shia LaBeouf, who was like, you know, in his teens at the time. It's like right from like the whole Even Stevens thing, like, or at least right after the whole Even Stevens thing, or right when the show was probably about to end. You remember Even Stevens? Man, that was a time. I still remember, like, there was like a musical episode that they did, 6 period. That's the only thing I remember, but it was like they always stuck out with me because of his co-star. I'm blanking on her name. Let me look it up real quick, because I do not want to disrespect this woman, because she was amazing. She's Kim Possible, by the way. Christy Carlson Romano. I knew it was something like Romani or Romano. I knew it was like something with Rom in it. Also great show. I probably should do like a TV spoiler review on Kim Possible, because it has been a mighty long time since I've seen Kim Possible. one of his on. It should be on Disney Plus. It's like anything Disney related should be on Disney Plus right now. It should not, nothing should be left out. I gotta look it up and see. But as a matter of fact, I got my phone right here. Let's check those out because let's see if. Sorry, I just want to make sure that we see, because if it is, maybe it's something I'll do next year as far as TV show reviews. Yep, yep, Kim Possible. Even the movies. So, well, I'm not gonna do the live action one. I heard that one sucked, but yeah, I want to definitely check out like the Kim Possible films. So definitely want to see what's up with that. I already got my list of movies set for this year, but I already started like putting like a folder for February movies for 2024. But I should start like putting in a folder for 2024, just movies in general that should like cover, and TV shows that I should cover, and Kim Possible should be on that list because I definitely want to check Kim Possible out. But anyway, it turns out the Thin Man return. He kills the surfer dude who was trying to kill Max, played by Shia LaBeouf, and it turns out he had like a bunch of photos with pictures of people he was like charged to take out that was on the list from the ranks. Max was on the list, and then Dylan was on that list, but it was under, get this, it's like Bart Simpson wrote this, it's under the name Helen Zass. I repeat, it's under the name Helen Zass. Grow up, Dylan. But then she started to regale everybody on her part of her past she kept from everyone. That, you know, her first boyfriend, her very, very first boyfriend, was this was part of this O'Grady Irish mob family, Seamus, who she, because he always got a thing for bad boys, she saw, you know, like, he was into metal, and he was, you know, it's funny, and but when she witnessed him kill somebody, she despite him threatening her not to tell nobody, she still went to the cops, testified against him, same as like Max, who also testified against him after, you know, Seamus ended, you know, at some point killing his parents. So they were responsible for putting him behind bars. But then you see a moment where Seamus, you see him, and he playing the Sideshow Bob. Listen to it. They played the Sideshow Bob theme music. Whenever time you watch The Simpsons and they try to go to, you know, it's like a Sideshow Bob episode, you gotta see him in prison. They play the whole thing. Dun, 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 that thing. And it's like, wait a minute, is that Sideshow Bob? And this, you know, present day Seamus looks like a more cooler, muscular version of Johnny Knoxville. Look at him, you don't tell me he doesn't look like Johnny Knoxville, like, but cooler and Irish and muscular. Like if Johnny Knoxville didn't waste most of his time messing around with, like, you know, jackass stunts. I don't know if any Irish people out there, but you gotta judge for yourself whether or not that Irish accent is authentic or not, because it kind of comes off as not authentic. It's like somebody dubbed over his voice, Dublin over his voice, if you if you will. Uh, but he gets released by an unseen person, and they give him the rings, hoping to draw out Dylan, because he wants revenge on her for putting him away. So they stake out the shipyard, which is near, it's kind of like a Pink Panther Club. And of course you get a little cameo with the Pussycat Dolls, the musical group. And you see, of course, the three ladies dressed in like very skimpy outfits, and honestly, like, I am not mad at it. I don't think anybody else will be mad at it. And they get the security key off this guy who is the key to this locked room where they keep like some valuable possessions, including the keys. Which you get this little moment where they go over. I'm pretty sure out of all like the fantasy crap that they spew, this one probably, I'm not a scientist, I'm pretty sure the scientists who watch this hear this, they might say there's some validity to what they're saying about like titanium, with something about its inner core, where unlike most other metals, if you add some liquid to a container filled with these things, titanium might float to the not titanium, but something special inside the titanium with the core aspect cause it to float up. It just seems more plausible if you learn a bit of chemistry. So I was like, okay, let's ran with it. It sounds more plausible than most other the sciencey stuff they go babbling on about. But then they get ambushed by Seamus, who, he ends up figuring things out, like always 2 steps ahead of Dylan. And him and his, Irish mob go after the girls. They fight them off. They take back the rings. They escape. But Dylan's gotten so distraught, and knowing this guy and how ruthless he is, she's worried for her friends. So she end up leaving, just trying to protect them, that kind of thing. I'm glad this doesn't last long. Like I said, she quickly goes to, I'm not sure if it's actually Mexico or just like a Mexican, like a location in California. But she goes, trying to runs away. She ends up meeting with Kelly Grant, who, says like, hey, Charlie chose you for a reason. And, obviously, there's something about you, despite what you've been through in your past, there's something about you that he saw potential. And, diamonds, angels have to be found kind of thing. And so this gives her confidence, because she always partway through the movie, she had a bit of worry, because she she liked things the way they are. She found like a family with Charlie and like Natalie, Bosley, and Alex. But with Natalie finding somebody, Alex with somebody, eventually they will want to start a family and like move on, which feeling like Dylan's gonna be left behind and she might lose something. So she's not, she feels some type of way about it. But after little words of wisdom from like a previous angel, she feel a little bit more uh uh confident, and like can better deal with like the like changes for the best, you know and sometimes you you miss out on like the potential it brings, uh because it doesn't mean like you're losing out on these people because they starting a family. It's just your family is growing. You can look at it that way. So they figure out that Robert Patrick is also a bad guy because he's supposedly gotten like a couple of cracked ribs from like the adventure they rescue him from. So after Bosley tossed him some keys and he cashed it effortlessly without no signs of pains, at least any minor signs of pains, indicates immediately to Nellie and Alex, okay, what happened to the injury? Because it's only been like, let's say, like a handful of days, almost like maybe like a week, and like there's no sign of like any type of injury. Something's up. So they track him down to this observatory where he has like the keys, because they're setting up a buy between these the Grady's and these other crime families, like there's the mafia, yakuza, and cartel guys. He ends up getting double cross shot, and lo and behold, Madison Lee is like the real villain. And despite Dylan showing up, it means nothing. And of course, they try to do. And I like Madison's comment, because I guess kind of like fourth wall breaking a bit, where it's like, oh wow, the signature angels fighting kick butt kick bucket kick bucking kick kick butt kick butt stance. And and she remarks like, what we had when I was an angel, we had guns. And she put out these big pistols, and like despite it's kind of like also kind of like breaking the rules a little bit with the kind of like ignorance, I won't say the ignorance, but kind of the goofiness of it, where they try to like, oh, we do like a flip and like to try to dodge out of like gunfire and stuff like that. But she's been angel before, which I like the whole concept of like a former angel, like a fallen angel, if you will, who decides like, oh, okay, blam, blam, blam. I already know. I did this before. You don't know, like it's like y'all don't mix it up at no point. So luckily they wear Kevlar vests, which was already pretty much kind of like seated earlier in the first act, thankfully. But at no point any other times they ever worn these things. This is the only time they actually seen wearing like any kind of Kevlar. But she goes and infiltrates the headquarters and has this little debate with Charlie, who is saddened that she turned out this way. It's like I said, it's very play on the religious kind of overtones here, where it's like Charlie's kind of like, because she made a comment, it's like, why would I be an angel where I can be God? So you view Charlie as like God, and like the angels are his archangels carrying out his will kind of situation. And Madison Lee could be like Lucifer. She was one of his best. He made a comment like, you was one of the best. And she is fallen. And so, And she even made a comment like, I was like, you know, like you're deep down. He said like deep down you're still good, Madison. Yeah, it's like, and she, with tears in her eyes, she was like, I wasn't good. I was the best. And she shoots the speaker. And it's like, you know, it just didn't dawn on me until like after my second view. And it's like, wow, I'm pretty sure other people probably made this kind of comparison, but it's like, this is very like, you know, at least in this moment, very religious handed, heavy handed. They even had like a scene with like, you know, when they try to figure out why the Thin Man is around again, they figure out his like backstory. He was like picked up, dropped off at an orphanage, and he has like you know, you know, he loves haircuts, and this is where he got his obsession with getting people's hair and everything like that. You know, like Mother Superior, played by Carrie Fisher, like Carrie Fisher. It was kind of funny. I didn't even recognize, you know, like, you know, when I was a kid, but yeah. So you know, like I couldn't realize, like I didn't even realize, like why didn't they figure this kind of out, his backstory in the previous film? Um, so um, she's gonna, you know, plan on selling, you know, to the highest bidder on near like the Hollywood, uh, you know, Walk of Fame thing. Or hangnail. Uh, so the three ladies wake up, and they realize where she's gonna be. So they trick all but the O'Grady crime family into going to a different, using disguises, going to a different locale than originally planned by Madison. And they get captured by the FBI. So now the Angels fighting off the O'Grady's, Madison, and Seamus. And the Thin Man shows up and helps out Alex. I mean Dylan, Alex too, but Dylan, and they share a kiss, which not as awkward as like, you know, Ray and Ben Solo, but it was like, because you always think, I guess it's the play on like how Dylan always falls for like the bad guys, and he still ends up ripping out a piece of her hair, and you know, in the ensuing little tussle, she, you know, tore a piece of his hair, and like he starts sniffing it all like, you know, erotically and stuff like that, but she just like, just, it's kind of, it makes the scene funnier than it probably should have been, where she's like, okay, like just, I was gonna go with it, and start sniffing his hair, and she was like, and he looks like he's about to say something, because he doesn't say anything in either film other than maybe like yells. And Seamus, you know, comes from behind and like, you know, attacks him and throws him off the roof, which when I was a kid, that was shocking. Like, oh my god, I didn't see that coming. And so Alex and Seamus, Dylan and Seamus fight. He gets you know, blinded by like one of the lights off the roof, and he ends up falling down to his death. In a deleted scene, neither guy is dead, but one of the letters off the sign fall down, and right before Seamus is about to get out the way, you know, the Thin Man holds him down, and they both die from the crash. And they end up stopping, you know, doing this little short car chase Once again, very green screen heavy, and they go to this. They end up in this abandoned theater where uh, these three take on Madison, and it is a gas leak. As they kick her, and she lands through the floor, and she tries to fire off a gun and ignites the gas, and she ends up dying from the explosion. And they all attend this kind of movie premiere. You see like for some reason, like because Bosley takes Max to a location where they feel like there's a little more protected and nobody else knows, which is in like South Central, where like you go to this adoptive family, and there's like a picture of Bill Murray Bosley on the wall, and it's like this black family with Big Boy before he lost all the weight, and it's like as one of the cousins and stuff like that, and they playing Clue, and the mama of the house decides to adopt Max and everything like that. So that's like a happy ending for him, and you know Alex and Matt LeBlanc gets back together, and Natalie's worried that Pete might be rushing things because he's thinking he might be proposing to her, and they just moved in together, but he just wanted like a dog, so that's just like happy ending on that. And everybody's like pretty much happy with the family and everything like that. So the movie ends on like a happy note. Like I said, like I like the first one slightly more, but I also have a great time with this because I love Demi Moore's character in this. I love her, being able to take on these three, because like being a former angel, she already knows the tricks, because you can't do all the same goofy stuff that other people typically fall for, and especially the whole Charlie's Angel stance and everything like that. And it's like, it's a very badass moment, but it's like, it's like, most people might be taken aback, but she's not really intimidated. And I love the fact that like she comments on how like her generation of angels use weapons, because this is a spy game here and they need the firepower. But I guess every generation of angels is kind of different, or work with what's useful of the time. It's kind of like the same with like the different generation of Bonds. So it's like they work with what they what is useful of the time. Like Daniel Craig's Bond doesn't use all that many gadgets in like a more digital age compared to the previous Bonds, who had like an exploding pen and not that the Daniel Craig doesn't utilize that much gadgets. It's just it's probably like maybe 2-3 bare minimum, or even say at the most 2 or 3 things, while the previous ones had like at least 5 different kinds of gadgets. But yeah, nothing else to say about this. This is really good. And it actually did make money, because like people like came out the woodwork just to go see it. It had a budget of 120 million and raked in the box office at the time 259.2 million. So pretty good pretty good run. Of course, there the first one still made slightly more at the box office, but still not too shabby. My biggest complaint, like I said before, is like the green screen and the wire working. It's kind of like, if I would have made like a reboot of this, I would have dialed it back or utilized those things a little bit better to make it less cheesy. That's why I hired like people who done stuff like Casino Royale you know, for example, or like, you know, the, you know, John Wick films where it's like slightly more practical, and like, you know, a nice between, at the very, a nice mix at the very least. But anyway, if you've seen Charlie's Angels Full Throttle, let me know in the comments below what you thought of the film. If you haven't seen it in a while, I highly recommend you checking this out again. It is so much fun. These ladies are awesome, especially Drew Barrymore. Oh my god. And it's fun because next week I'm going to be going to see Shazam, and Lucy Liu is in there as one of the villains. Because we haven't seen Lucy Liu in much in a long while, so it's like nice to see her and something and again, because she's a great actress. Still amazing. By the way, aging like fine wine, the finest of the wines. All three of them have. Yeah. Let's see, like, you know, how many likes we can get off this video. Please let me know what you thought of this, because god, like, this is an amazing film. It's fun. It's really fun. Maybe not Oscar worthy, but it's definitely like a highlight movie, and definitely of the 2000s, early 2000s type of film. As I know, it's like early 2000s is going to be getting their little moment of a renaissance in a way, of nostalgia kind of thing. That'll be interesting to see, like, you know, what early 2000s gimmick was the thing where people will be coming back to, like, you know, what, like, that'll be interesting to see, because, like, I don't know, it's hard to say. It's like I can't pinpoint what. It's kind of like, you know, sagging pants was a thing in the 90s kind of thing, or like, you know, the 80s with like the boom boxes. You know, they always had like a thing in a decade. What was the early 2000s thing? Like Bedazzle, maybe? I don't know. But anyway, I will see you guys in a little bit for my comic book review of the Radioactive Spider-Gwen. So stay tuned for that in a little bit. So I'll see you.